All right, and we are live. Welcome everybody to Writers Chat, where we discuss everything writerly. And Melissa and I are taking over this morning for Bethany and Jean, and Johnny Alexander, who normally host Writers Chat. They are all so busy and so wonderful at what they do that they weren't able to be here live hosting today. So we are trying to pinch hit for them, so pray for us. But we are delighted and blessed to have Tom Blubaugh.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And Melissa, do you want to give the official introduction bio for Mr. Blubaugh?
Sure. First of all, we're just glad to have you here, Tom. It's fun to have you, and I've heard of Authors Community and followed it for a little bit of time, and then Jen mentioned you for one of our last Writers Chats and the possibility of having you on, and that was just exciting to hear. So we're really glad to have you. For all of you who don't know, Tom Blubaugh is married to Barbara Holmes. They have 6 children and 14 grandchildren. He spent his childhood in a small town in southeast Kansas. Tom began writing poetry at age 14. He has written nonfiction most of his adult life. Tom self-published Behind the Scenes of the Bus Ministry in 1974, has written articles for denominational and business magazines from 1975 to 1995, co-wrote The Great Adventure under contract for Barber Publishing Company in 2009. He wrote his first fiction, Night of the Cossack, published by Bound by Faith Publishers in 2011, and is a guest writer in several books. He's been a public speaker for 40 years. Tom was a self-employed financial planner from 1973 to 1995. He is the past president and past board of directors member of Jericho Commission, Inc., is the past chaplain of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 952 in Springfield, Montana, and is past manager, moderator of the Google Plus Christian Authors Community, CEO of Common Sense Marketing Strategies, Tom Blubaugh Literary Strategist, LLC, Authors Community, ebookchristian.com, and Genesis Project International. He ministers to the homeless and addicts through his life experiences and blog articles. I'm sorry, I think I missaid one of those states. But that's quite a resume. We're really glad to have you here and excited to learn more about Authors Community.
Thank you. And you can only tell I'm 19 years old.
Yes, that's a lot to do in such a short period of time.
It is. Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
I am 76, and I've had a very full life. And I'm supposed to be retired, but I love what I do, working with authors so much that it's just, I don't know, it's fun. And I can do it from anywhere in the world. So
that's wonderful. So if you love what you do, you never have to retire, right?
That's right. That's right.
Especially if you're good at it. And you must be if you've accomplished so much.
Well, just say the Lord has directed me.
Yes. So tell us about your passion for Authors Community. Why did you start Authors Community, and what is your vision for the site?
It's a great question. I have been an entrepreneur since 1973, and I've been a Christian since 1970. And I discovered in 1994 2 verses, Proverbs 16:9 and 19:21. One says, a man's mind plans his way, but God directs his steps. The other one says that in a man's heart are many ideas, but God's purpose will prevail. And I had spent a lot of money trying to figure out God's will for my life on tapes and books. And when I read those, I said, God, can it really be that easy? I plan and have ideas, and you direct, and your purpose prevails. And he said, it's that easy. And so I've been doing that ever since. But I learned very quickly in financial planning that if there's no investment, there's no value. And if it weren't for that principle that I learned, I would do everything I do for nothing because it's so enjoyable. But when I came online in 2011 with my novel Night of the Cossack, I was picked up by a small publisher who's now out of business on my book. And I found out that he had as difficult a time getting my book in bookstores as I would have getting my manuscript in the publishing houses. So I thought, okay, I've got 40 years of experience in marketing. I'll do this myself. And when I got online, I met hundreds and hundreds of authors who were basically like lemmings following themselves over a cliff because they were trying to figure out what a platform was, and what social media is, and what the publishers wanted, and the change that was taking place with Amazon. And they were just beginning to realize that they were going to do most of the marketing themselves, but they didn't know how. And a lot of them didn't even want to do marketing because they equated it strictly with sales. And so I thought, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I started talking to them and finding out what they needed. And so I've merged old school marketing principles with new school technology and started working with authors. But I started charging them by the hour like I did in financial planning. What I found out was that by the time they got done with everything that they had to do, they didn't have any money left for me. And so one Saturday morning, I woke up and I was totally frustrated. And I just said, God, I don't get it. I'm trying to help these people. I have a lot to offer, but it's just not working. And the thought came to me to start an online community. He told me to give more than I take, to have a free level, but also have a paid level for those who want coaching. And I started doing that, and I've never experienced anything like it. It's just, it's crazy. And, but I found out that authors all over the world are just people like we here are in the States. They have the same needs. In fact, their problems are much greater because it's the money translation or the money, what do you call it, exchange and things like that. And if it wasn't for PayPal, it probably wouldn't be able to be done. I don't know. So anyway, that's what happened, and it's just got a life of its own.
That's wonderful. It sounds like a very needed resource for authors, because we hear that all the time here on Writers Chat, how scared we are of marketing and how difficult that process can be, getting your name out there in the midst of the masses of writers that are out there. So what kind of authors would benefit most, do you think, from authors community?
Anybody who writes.
Anybody. Okay.
Anybody who writes. I don't call authors community a Christian community because I don't want to be exclusive of anybody. Of course, we have guidelines. We use the term family friendly. That seems to throw a lot of people for a loop because they really don't know what that means. But it opens the door to great conversations for me and allows me to bring people in. But we are looking for writers who write wholesome, moral writing. We know it has to be realistic because there's a lot of problems that we face in this world today that are quite mind-boggling, to say the least. And it's a nationwide thing. I'm so grateful the Me Too organization has developed, because I'm a product myself of sexual abuse when I was 12 years old. And by the time I was 15, I was out of control. I was a convicted felon. And nobody knew how to control me. I had no respect for authority, not even God. And if it hadn't been for a high school teacher who made me go to school a week longer than anybody else to make up all the back bookkeeping assignments and tests that I missed from skipping, I don't know where I'd be today, because I know God put that person in my path. Unfortunately, she's not alive now, but I know that in a split second of time, she didn't know she was changing me, and I didn't know I was being changed. And then 10 years later, the Lord reached down and I became a Christian. Somewhere along the line, I may have gotten off track there, but that's pretty common for me.
That shows your part of your vision for what you do now professionally kind of harkens back to the empathy someone else showed you to help lift you up and help you to become who you were meant to be and actualize your potential. So now you are helping others actualize their potential and you're giving back. So I think that's a beautiful story of healing and actualization of your true God-given essence of who you were meant to be all along. I love that story. It's great.
Wow. I hadn't looked at it all in that way, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I like that. We did have a question about somebody wanting to grow their email list. Would Authors Community be a place where they could learn things like that or develop things like that?
Absolutely, because emails are still the number one best way to reach people. My social media platform of choice is LinkedIn, because they're the only one that I know of that gives you the email address when you make a connection. And I have somewhere between 40 and 50,000 connections on the internet, and half of them are on LinkedIn. And I use a CRM called HubSpot to manage them, because I can categorize, I can set them up in priority of influence and all kinds of things. And I market two ways. And when I say market, I don't mean selling, because marketing is selling in a way, but really what it is relationship development. If you look at all the ads on TV, if you look at McDonald's and all of those, they're trying to build a relationship with their customers. Burger King, it was, we do it your way, and different things like that. But really right now, we're more in the customer service relationship building phase of business, more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. The competition is so great between the internet and the brick and mortar stores that if the customer service isn't there, if the competitive prices aren't there, they're out of business in a short amount of time. I think I got off track again.
Oh, no. I think that still really pertains to what you do in Authors Community, because you're helping build brands, you're helping market and helping people realize what marketing means when we're scared of it. Helping us understand that that's about relationship. Authors are a little easier, more at ease with the idea of relationship than we are with sales. Sales scares us.
Yeah, sales. I was in sales for 1 year before I decided that I wasn't going to sell anything to anybody. And from that point on, and I did very well at it, I would just present my case and let people make up their own mind. And they could ask 1,000 questions, and it didn't bother me until I saw I wanted to see the light go off in their eyes that, aha, I get what you're talking about. And I see the same thing in authors when I share with them, especially things like the importance of email addresses and building an email list and how valuable it is. And then I see that light go off, and I know that they finally get it, because it's something everybody does, but it's one thing to know what to do, and it's something else again to know why to do it.
Yes. Like Michael Hyatt says, you lose your way if you lose your why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand it, and that's where I come in what I do. And I don't know too much about Bethany. I haven't met her yet or anything. And I know she does marketing. But principles aren't any different. But the thing is that until a person understands why it's so important to do it, they'll always flounder. They just, they'll never figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it does scare us with sales, because I think authors are sensitive. And I've also heard it said that a sensitive soul, a creative soul, has to be both tender and tough. That's kind of a paraphrase from The Artisan Soul by Erwin Raphael McManus, which is a lovely book. But we're both tender and tough. So we're tender about our rejection issues. And yet we have to be tough, because we have to be willing to face those rejection issues as part of our author world of what we do in our careers. So how would you say you would balance that in authors community? Do you help with any of that, managing that process?
I do. I'm very forthright. I learned a long time ago that I could say what I mean. I could mean what I say, but I don't have to say it mean.
I like that.
And so when I'm talking to authors, I tell them I'm going to be very upfront and honest with you, because that's what you want. I don't do you any favors by not being honest with you. And so I can't guarantee you anything if you haven't written a good book. I can't guarantee you anything if it hasn't been professionally edited. I can't promise you anything if readers don't like what you write. And so that's not in my ballpark. But I do have a partner, Gina Burgess, who is a book coach, who is an author, who is an editor. She's an illustrator and an artist. She has an MBA in communication. She's very good at what she does. And so when an author looks at me and says, how do I know if my book's any good? And I said, well, then you have somebody who knows to read maybe 10 chapters of it and tell you what they think and where you've gone off track or whatever. So that's all part of it. But if a person can't handle that, then they're in trouble. Because I hated English when I was a kid. I wanted to know who was making all these rules, and what right did they have to make these rules, and why can't I use ain't? All my friends say it, and why is that not proper, and those kind of things. And so when I wrote my novel, I got in touch with an author online, and she told me to get in a critique group. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I'm not too good at taking critique from anybody. And she said, just toughen up and do it. And wouldn't you know that 7 out of 10 of them were retired English teachers. And so I had to apologize to all of them for my attitude, and I said, my grammar is not what it should be. And they said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. But we want you to know that we want to help you publish your book. That's the main thing. Mm-hmm. And when they got done with me, I loved English. I loved English teachers. I loved grammar. They turned me around. I wanted to know where they were when I was a kid, because English teachers didn't approach it that way. And they took me from the middle of my book that I thought was the beginning, and they said, that's fine, Tom, but how'd you get there? And so I had to write 120 pages just to get to the point where I thought was the beginning to finish my book. And but they were great. And so I tell that story because we all have weaknesses. But if we don't overcome those weaknesses, I read an article a while back. There's 3 questions. And this is what I ask authors. Okay, what are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of it? And if you weren't afraid of it, what would you do? And let's concentrate on that.
Those are good.
And so it makes a difference, to get fear out of the way. Because fear usually is something unknown. We just hadn't experienced it yet. And once we experience, we say, I don't know what I was afraid of. what I thought it was. It wasn't that at all.
So our fear is the biggest obstacle that we face as writers. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
And how does Authors Community give us tools to overcome our obstacles? What are some of the specific ways that people can benefit from the Authors Community relationship?
Boy, that's a tough one because everybody is unique. No two people have experienced the same thing, really. And so what I try to do is I ask them, I tell them I'm playing tennis. If you've ever played tennis, you know the only way you can win that game is keep the ball out of your court.
Ah.
And so I'm hitting the ball to you. Now you got to decide whether you're going to hit the ball back to me. If you don't hit the ball back to me, the game's over. There's nothing I can do about it. So I'm hitting the ball, and I'm going to give you 2 assignments. I want you to tell me in a Word document, 1 page by bullet point, if money were no object, where do you want to be in 3, 5, and 10 years with your writing? And 9 out of 10 people have never done that. They're writing. They feel like they have a calling, or whatever, but they have never gone out and looked into the future. Where do I want to be? So it's like going on vacation. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? I mean, you can jump on any highway you want to, but you may end up in the ocean, you know. So you got to know where you're going. So I tell them if they send that to me and they start with me, then I will work through that with them and we'll turn it into a business plan. And one of the books that I like is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read that, Stephen Covey, it's a great read. But one of the principles is you start with the end in mind. And if you do just turn around in the circle in the room that you're in, and whatever your eyes fall upon, that started out as an idea in somebody's mind. It's the same way with us. We started out with an idea in the mind of God. And then he looked into the future of where he wanted to do, what he was trying to do, what he wanted to do, and came back to the present and did it. And we don't know, maybe he spent 10,000 years in our time thinking about me before he ever designed me in my mother's womb. I don't know. But that gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling to think about that. But anyway, anything that you look at was an idea in their mind, but until they got it down on paper and drafted it out, they couldn't do anything. And then they had to research and figure out what they had to do to finish their invention or whatever it is, no matter what it is. And then we see some of the craziest things in gift shops. Who would ever thought of that?
Yeah.
Okay, but it did. And the crazy thing is, it's in the gift shop.
Somebody had to have a plan to do that.
Somebody had to have a plan.
Now, Rachel in the chat room had a really good question. For a writer, what would a business plan look like? Can you give us an example of what that might feel like for writers to have a business plan?
Wow, now we're getting deep here. So, okay, let's say that you say in 5 years that you want to have written 5 books.
Okay.
Okay. So I start asking questions. Okay, do you have the titles yet? No. Are you a seat of the pants writer, or do you outline? Have you started on your characters yet? Who are you writing the book for? So who's going to be your target market? And where are they? How do you reach them? And we just start building strategies. And Stephen Covey says you start with the end in mind, and then you reverse engineer it, and you come back to the present, and you start building your plan. And that's what we do. So it's a lot of conversation. The second assignment that I tell them I want is I want a synopsis of everything that you have done to promote yourself and your book or books. Because I want to see, from that, I want to see what their thinking is. I can pick up a lot what their fears are. I tried that and I hated it. Well, why did you hate it? And those kind of things. So that gives me some foundation on how to work with them one-on-one. Because if I try to treat them like the person I just talked to an hour before, it's going to, maybe some of it will connect, but a lot of it won't. Then I make them responsible. I tell them I meet with a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. I have emails running out my ears every day. I probably respond to 50 people a day on LinkedIn in some kind of conversation. And I don't keep track of what I'm doing with you. So you're the one that has to know what we're doing and where we're going. And I will update. I take their Word document and I update it as we're talking. And I send them back the updated copy. And I tell them, you can change anything in there you want, but you have to send me a copy of it so that I can look at it when we're talking. But I say that you're the one in control. And so if I come to you next week, if we're meeting and I say, where are we this week? And you say, I don't know either. So I don't want you responsible, or I don't want to be responsible for you. I'm responsible to you. But if God takes me home at midnight tonight and I'm not here tomorrow, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. So it's like you're a coach for their business plan. So,
literary strategist to me means coach.
Yeah. Because it sounds a little bit like what I do with life coaching. They have to do it. I can kind of advise you, but I'm not going to do it for you.
Right. Exactly. Now, I can do it for you, but it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you won't like that. And you may not like the way I do it for you.
Right. It has to have your branding on it.
Got to have your branding on it. Absolutely.
Now, Rhonda asked what of those things, if you had an agent, would they do, or would you want? She asked about a business manager. Do authors have business managers? I haven't heard of that.
They are the business manager.
Okay, you are your own business manager.
If you are not treating your writing like a business, then it's a hobby.
Ah, good point.
And there's nothing wrong with a hobby. Absolutely nothing wrong with a hobby. They're great. But don't expect your hobby to produce an income if you don't treat it like a business.
That's an area that a lot of authors struggle in, myself included, is getting that business mindset that, there's a lot that's on me, that I've got to be willing to take on that responsibility if I want to make a go of my writing.
Right. But there's a 20-minute rule. And if there's something that's hard for you to do, or you don't like to do it, like posting on Twitter or whatever, set a timer and do it for 20 minutes to the best of your ability. And when the timer goes off, stop. You're going to feel very good because you accomplished something in that 20 minutes. You're not going to go to bed that night and say, oh, wow, I didn't do that again, and I know I need to do it, and beat yourself up and feel guilty and all that kind of stuff. You may find at the end of 20 minutes, hey, this is kind of fun, and do it for another 20 minutes if you want to.
I like that. That's how I can get through exercise.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a T-bone steak. You go out and you order a T-bone steak. Okay, you got a choice right away. Do I pick it up with my hands and try to eat the whole thing at once? Or am I going to take this knife and fork and I cut it up in bite-sized pieces so that I can enjoy it? Because if you don't enjoy the journey, you're not going to finish it.
That's another good statement. Did you have any extra questions, Melissa?
Well, Rhonda just clarified a little bit about what she was saying. Not so much that she's not willing to take on the responsibilities of a writer, but maybe more so about knowing at what point you need help outside, or how much should you expect from an agent if you get one, or what's their job description in that, whose responsibility is it?
Okay, I can't speak for an agent because I'm not an agent. I have never had an agent. I know there's good and bad agents. I've got a list of 400 agents. It's a couple years old that if anybody wants it, they can send me an email and I'll send it to them. And but I don't know. It's a hard question for me to answer about agents. I know that it's not just a matter of getting a acquisitions editor to read your manuscript and like it anymore, because the market is so competitive now, and so many companies have bought up smaller publishers and things like that. That even though the acquisition editor likes the manuscript, the marketing department has to know that they can market it. The sales department has to know that they can find bookstores who want it. The distribution knows that they have to get it out there. They don't want a million buybacks of books that they sell, and things like that. So it's not just one person you're dealing with.
Well, as someone who has an agent, I will say agents can be great resources on developing a business plan if your agent has time to sit with you and do that. But not every agent will have a lot of time to spend one-on-one with each of their clients all the time. So if you need a lot of individual attention, if you're just getting started, it might be good to hire a strategist or to look to a community for extra support. That would be, I don't know if that answers Rhonda's question, but that would be my perspective as someone who has an agent. So
is it, maybe what you'd like to know is it worthwhile to invest in somebody that's going to help you with marketing, or how much can you expect to be able to figure out on your own if it's something like maybe you struggle with?
That depends on the person that you hire. If somebody says to you, for $10,000, I can guarantee you that I'll get you on the New York bestsellers list, run the other way.
Yeah, that sounds kind of sketchy.
Okay, yeah. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Research, but it's hard to research because you can look at anybody's website and they can look like they're the smartest person in the world and not know anything at all. Or you can find somebody who does what I do. I don't charge anything. Everything's through the community membership. It's a paid membership of $35 a month. It's a bargain because you get me on demand. You get my two partners. Because what we're trying to do is develop a safe place for authors. We have a vendors community, and I don't know how much of this kind of thing you all offer, but we have basically everything that's needed, and they answer to us. We vet them, and if there's a problem, you come to us and we get involved in it. Not that we've had problems, because we haven't. Our biggest problem is finding vendors who want to treat their business like a business. They're kind of like authors. And they want to come into the community and fish in our pool, which is fine, but they don't want to promote themselves. And we like vendors to have videos and content, who I am, and this is what my experience is, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I meet with people one-on-one and on Zoom just to discuss what they need. And until they're convinced that they want to work with me. Until I'm convinced that I want to work with them, nothing happens. 3 kinds of people in the world. There are those who have a vision, and the vision is so big that it just scares them to death, and they die with it.
Mm.
Nothing ever happens. There are those who have a vision and they understand the vision, but when they actually get in and research and talk to somebody like me, and they see what you actually have to do to get there, that scares them. Or they're not willing to invest the time or the money or the effort or whatever. The third person is a person who has the vision, understands the vision, wants the vision, researches what they have to do, accepts it, and they just start putting one foot in front of the other. And whatever obstacles come up, they overcome it. They never take their eye off where they're going. They just get it done. Those are the people I love to work with.
The people that'll do one step at a time and persevere through the hard places.
Right. And it's like the old story, the tortoise and the hare. The rabbit tried to do it fast, run down the roads and everything, wore himself out, fell asleep. The turtle, just taking one step after another, very slowly got there. So in what we're doing in marketing, fast is slow and slow is fast.
Mm. So give us an idea, if someone joined the authors community today, what would they expect to do next? What are the things that they would be involved in? How would they participate? Would they go on an online chat? Are they in a weekly mentoring group? How does authors community work? Give us kind of a overview of the...
Okay, keep remembering, please, that we're 2 years old.
Right.
Okay, and if God would have said to me, Tom, this is everything you're going to face in doing this, I'd say, no, thank you.
Right.
But because he's directing and everything, you know, I get it, and he's teaching me like I'm teaching others. So the thing is that, let me come back to your question. See, when you ask me something like that, 14,000 things come into my mind. So rephrase that question to me.
Okay. So tell me, if I join today an authors community, what should I expect to start doing in the community? Am I going to be involved in an online chat group each week, or a mentoring group, or a brainstorming group, or what are some of the things that I'm going to participate in?
I wish that was all in place.
Okay.
We do have a forum. We have a bookstore. We have blogs you can write to promote yourself if you want to. We have conversations you can start in the forum. I write a letter to you welcoming you and suggest that you join the forum. You automatically go on our newsletter list. And after that, I look in the forum to see what problems come up, because that helps me know what I want to talk about, what I want to do videos on, and that kind of thing. But really, it's up to you to look through the website and see what's there, and then you contact us. We're not going to twist your arm. We're looking for those people that have a vision and they want to know how to get there. So the more people we have that joins our community, the better it is for us, because it helps us know what we need to do. But we have our hands full.
Okay.
I have biscuits and gravy on my plate, and the gravy's running over on the floor.
Your plate runneth over.
It runneth over.
So what would you say of all the things that you offer is the greatest value?
Coaching.
The coaching. Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. That one-on-one coaching that you provide.
Right. And we like to think that we're going to be able to have scholarship for people who can't afford to pay membership. $35 doesn't seem like that much to a lot of people, but to other people, it's,
Mm-hmm.
they may have to give up a couple, 2 or 3 meals to do that. We don't want that either.
Yeah.
And so I have the right to charge and if I can barter, I will. If there's something they can do to help the community in exchange for the coaching, I do that as well. Strangely enough, I'm not trying to make a living at this. I'm retired.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think that's really it, and would endear the possibility to a lot of people to learn that they can.
Right.
They can make that.
But I'm not a millionaire either. So just everything depends on relationship. It's just God sends people to me that help in the community that are way smarter than I am. And what they do.
Sometimes building a legacy is much better than building a bank account.
You've got it. That's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
6 kids, 14 grandkids. Some of them think they want to be authors. And that's great. But I'm about leaving something behind when I'm gone. I've got a team of people around me that understand that. They probably get tired of me saying, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I've got a pacemaker in my chest. I had a heart attack 14 years ago that they call a widowmaker, but I didn't die. And so I'm on borrowed time doing whatever God wants me to do.
I think if we look at it correctly, we're all on borrowed time anyway.
We are.
Don't really know how long we have, and it's
Right.
important to do what God calls us to do each step of the way throughout that process.
Right.
And I love that you're representing that. We see a lot of people saying, I'm too old, or it's gone, I waited too long to get started, or I'm 80, what can I possibly write? Or there are people that get started later in life and they think it's too late. I would love to hear you offer some kind of encouragement to that piece of the community. It's not just people that are over 60 that feel that way. Sometimes people can feel that way if they're 40 or 50, or it's too late, or I've come past that point of being able to fulfill my potential and it's too late for me in life. What would you just say to somebody who's a writer who feels like they didn't get started when they were 20 or 20 years ago when it was easier to break into the market or things like that? It's too late to do what God meant for me to do.
3 words. Get over it. You're not done until God says you're done. And I believe with all my heart that this life that we live on earth is a preparation for what we're going to be doing in eternity. Mm-hmm. I may be able to sit by the river of life and dangle my feet in the water and enjoy that for 10,000 years, but what am I going to do for the next 10,000 years? He's got a purpose for all of us. And so I don't know how many planets are out there in the universe that have life. I don't know. I know it's still expanding. He's still creating, that he doesn't change. So I'm saying that if you have something in your heart that you desire to do, write a book. Just write it. Write what you know. I wrote a book about my grandfather, a novel, because he died a year before I was born. Both my grandfathers did. I didn't have a grandfather. I got 14 grandkids. What do I know about being a grandfather? I don't know anything. But the thing is that I wanted to have a grandfather, so I created my own. And I have a sister that says to me, I can't believe Grandpa did that. And I said, I don't know if he did or not. She said, but you wrote it in your book. I said, it's fiction. The historical part's true, but he's fiction. So I know that the next generation after her, they've got a grandfather, great-grandfather, or whatever. And so you don't know who's going to read it. You don't know who's observing. You don't know who you're influencing. just do it.
Mm-hmm. Just be obedient with what's in front of you, right?
Right. I heard a person say on a gravestone, you've got the year you were born and you got the year you die. But the important thing is that dash in between. What does that dash represent?
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't do anything, you don't leave anything behind.
Definitely. So true.
So I'm saying, if you're afraid of it, what are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of it? And if you weren't afraid, what would you do? And then do it.
I've heard it said that you should let that fear be your motivator. And there's a lot of talk in the chat about that very thing, thinking like, I've got so much to do and so little time to do it in. Well, not thinking about the lack of time that you possibly have, but use the time you have to do what you can in the moment.
Yeah, but that frustrates you. Mm-hmm. But if you look at Proverbs 16:9, a man's mind plans his way, but God directs his steps. Mm-hmm. And Proverbs 19:21, in a man's heart are many ideas, but God's purpose will prevail. Then you just do today what you can do today. And you don't worry about the time that you have, because he's the one that's directing all of this. So I tell people, when I go out of my house to get the mail, the mailbox is down at the street. I've got a sidewalk as I step off the porch that takes me to the driveway. I've got a big locust tree in the front yard. I'm looking at it now, huge thing. And if I'm going to the mailbox, but I stub my toe on the sidewalk and I find myself going toward the locust tree, I can do one of two things. I can either fight my way back to the mailbox, or I can stand there and say, okay, God, what do I need to do with this tree?
Very good.
And just relax.
Mm-hmm. It's like we think it's all up to us. And that's part of our fear. I think that's where the enemy kind of gets us all twisted up in fears, because we think, I have to do all of these things.
Right.
I myself.
Well,
and that's a lie.
It's like the rich young ruler. He came to the Lord and he said, what must I do to be saved? And the Lord said, well, if that's what the answer you want, here it is. Go and sell everything you have and give it to the poor.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to do. But I know you can't do it.
Right.
I've never heard it preached that way, but that's what speaks to me.
I like that way of looking at it. Yeah.
I feel like I'm preaching today.
It's hard to be purveyors of the word and not kind of trend there sometimes.
It is. I've got 76 and a half years of experience in this head. And I overcame a lot. I passed speech in high school without giving a speech. Teacher just said, I got to get this kid out of here. But here I am now. I've been speaking for 40 years. God changed me. Mm-hmm. He took that fear of standing in front of people and totally changed me. And now I'm a big ham. I love it.
We only realize what we can do when we do what we think we can't, right?
Right. And it's kind of interesting. Seems like the worst writers think they're the best, and the best writers think they're the worst.
Right. We need to approach it with some humility as well. And if we're not teachable, then that can be our own biggest obstacle, even bigger than fear.
Right. Everybody wants their book to be a movie. Come on. If God wants it to be a movie, okay.
That's true. Be open to that. What kind of industry trends do you see that are on the way? We haven't gone that way yet. Do you see some things? The industry has changed a lot since you've been involved in it. What are you seeing on the horizon? Do you see anything coming that you can kind of see that authors need to be prepared for in your community, and as in general, authors need to be aware of on the horizon, kind of dawning ahead of us?
I think there's more writers in the world today than there ever have been, and they're increasing because of indie publishing. It's so easy to get a book published now, and it's a blessing and a curse, because if you throw stuff out that's not prepared, you're still not going to have any success. Mm-hmm. Just because you're on LinkedIn, they're the biggest, or not LinkedIn, but Amazon, they're the biggest book distributor in the world now. And that's a good thing, but how are people going to find you? You know, so it's like everything changes, but everything stays the same. The car that you get in to drive to the store today is basically the same car that came out back in the early 1900s. 4 wheels, doors, steering wheel, transmission, motor. Okay, now we have computers and everything else, but the basic principle has not changed. So no matter what we see coming, because the internet is moving so fast that what works this morning at 9 o'clock may not work tomorrow night at 5. Mm. And so you have to stay up with it. But the principles don't change. I'm an old school guy in a new school world. What works? Hi, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? And you start building that relationship. Okay. That's what we have to do. If you're on social media and you're saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, authors on the average sell less than 350 books. Mm. Everybody knows between 200 and 400 people. So now think about that. If I only sell 350 books and I'm done, what's happened? I sold to my family, my friends, my neighbors, the people I go to church with, the people I work with, until people say, Tom, I don't want to hear about that book anymore. I'm done. Take me off your email list. I'm done. I'm not going to buy it. I only bought 1 copy. You only have 1 book out. But if I can find 350 authors who have 350 people in their circle of influence in my genre, and I can make a connection with them and develop a relationship, and I research them and make sure that what they're writing I agree with, then I can cross-promote their book to their community. They can cross-promote my book to, or I can cross-promote theirs to mine. And 350 times 350 is well over 100,000 people. Oh.
So you see that as another really great benefit for our authors community. Are you seeing people successful in your community with cross-promotion then?
Right. Because if we're all working in our own little domain, working only with those people that we know and associate with, the comfort zone is a wonderful place to be because it's comfortable, but nothing grows there. Okay. You got to get out of the comfort zone.
Very true.
Any questions that we've missed, Melissa?
Lots of comments. I don't know. Would we like to maybe open it up to everyone so they can get on and ask questions?
Okay. Does everybody want to come on video and audio, and feel free to ask some questions?
Bring it on.
And if you can't get on, let me know, and we'll get you. Does anyone have a question?
I was curious about, you talked a lot about fear, and I was wondering if there were other things that you saw in authors in general that were a common obstacle to their writing.
Self-confidence, lack of self-confidence. And I don't mean that in a way that it's all up to them, but confident that God has given them the talent to do what they're wanting to do. I personally don't think a person would desire to write a book if they didn't have the ability to write a book. That wouldn't make any sense. So to say I would like to write a book and then say I can't write a book, and well, hi, Jan. That doesn't make any sense. So I think fear is just, it's an unknown to me. I don't know what it is. I'm afraid of it. So write it. Go to your next door neighbor and say, I'm thinking about writing a book. What do you think about what I've written?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for sharing everything today.
You're welcome. Nice hat.
Thank you. I enjoyed listening to your history and sharing with all of us how your journey went. I think hearing others' journeys gives us the courage to go ahead and take a step and try to move forward ourselves. You know, I did the assignment you told me to do. Where do I want to be in 5 years and stuff? And by doing that, it really helped me look at myself and what I really wanted to do with what I was doing. Did I want it to be a hobby? Did I want it to be a business? And I think the one-on-one conversations you can have with Tom really help you get a better focus on yourself and what your path really is going to look like.
Thank you, Jan. Jan's one of my partners.
It's a great company.
She is. She's one of the people that, when I'm gone, is going to keep it going.
I am. I didn't know you had that plan for me.
If you don't think that, young lady, we need to have a talk.
Yes, sir. No, it's a great group to be in. We have a lot of fun in our meetings. We have a lot of support for each other in all different areas of our life, not just our writing life. The boards are great. Once you're a member and you get on the boards, there's all different topics where we can help each other to grow. Once I'm a little stronger here, I plan on starting a critique group with the children's authors in the group. And we're hoping to do that with other as groups as well, to kind of just, I think the more support you have, the better writer you're going to be. And I'm already in 3 writers groups with word weavers, but I look forward to joining another group with authors community, because it's a whole different set of eyes that are going to be on my material. And the more people I have look at my things before I'm ready to send them into my agent, the better my material will be.
And we are authors helping authors. So if somebody has overcome a fear and had success, we want to hear that story and we want to share it with other authors.
And the one thing we have is the book community, where we can promote our books, and there's a big audience out there with eBook Christian that they wouldn't have heard of our books if they weren't up on that website. So it's a good support area.
Any last questions? We're coming to that last minute of the hour.
I had a quick question.
Go ahead.
So Tom, way back in the beginning, you mentioned that you grow your mailing list using your LinkedIn contacts.
Yes.
Is that, because they give you their emails, so are you having them sign up, or when someone just connects with you with LinkedIn, you just add them to your mailing list?
I don't add it. Well, let me put it this way. If they want to connect with me, I send them a letter giving them some background about me, and I tell them that I have added you to my mailing list for my newsletter. When you get the first issue, if you don't want it, don't find it valuable, unsubscribe. That's a form of opt-in.
Oh, okay.
Another thing I do when I talk to people and I tell them, get the conversation started, and they want to talk to me in the future, things aren't right for them right now, then I ask them, may I contact you back in 2 months, 3 months? And can I put you on my mailing list for my newsletter so you won't forget who I am? I've never had anybody say no.
Okay. So giving them the opportunity to unsubscribe with the first email is considered like an ethical opt-out, opt-in situation.
Right. It's not that people don't want your email, they just don't want it uninvited.
Right. So I just wanted to know about the sort of how that was received doing it that way. Because I've always thought someone had to go to your, login area or to your form and sign up. Like it never occurred to me to just add someone to the list and tell them that they can unsubscribe if they want.
Right. It needs to be somebody who's trying to open the door to you, or you have some kind of connection with them.
Right.
You don't want to just go through LinkedIn and start sending emails to everybody who's on your list. Now, a lot of people don't know, but LinkedIn is one of the few platforms. One of the reasons I like it so well is that they will download to you on request all of your contacts, their email addresses, and even all the messages and stuff that you've had with them.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's very helpful.
So
I've got like 850 contacts on LinkedIn, but I don't think any of them are on my mailing list.
Well, they need to be, because LinkedIn is it's a more serious platforms. I say it softly that they're more professional, but people on there are really wanting to connect. They're looking for jobs. They want to connect with employers. And LinkedIn makes it very easy. And that's one of the things that I do is I go through all that with my clients so they understand how to use social media. Goodreads and LinkedIn, to me, are the two most important social media platforms. And Amazon owns Goodreads, in case anybody didn't know that. So if you put 2 and 2 together, Amazon's doing a lot with Goodreads, and Goodreads now has a connection with Facebook where you can bring those people into Goodreads. Everybody's trying to help you with their platform if you understand what they're trying to do and tap into it, especially with the profiles.
All right, we're tipping past the hour. Melissa, do you want to go ahead and wrap things up for us?
Sure. First off, thanks, Tom, for coming on. We've sure enjoyed just the wealth of wisdom you've shared with us and learning about authors community.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And next week, we're going to be privileged to have Rhonda Dragomir and Matthew Bro and Josh Masters get on and talk about building your writer's website and why you need to have one. So we're really looking forward to that. If you haven't got a question answered, we'll have you stick on with us after the recording for the after party. Thank you for coming on Writers Chat, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Can I say one thing?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
My email is tom@authorscommunity.net. If you've got a question or you didn't understand the answer, or even if you think I'm wrong about something, tell me.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we're ready to end the recording, and stay on. Go ahead and stay on. We have like a little after party after the recording ends so that we can all continue discussing. But we're going to wait for Bethany to end the recording for us.